Today, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has strongly criticized President Bola Tinubu's recent use of presidential pardons, calling it a reckless move that undermines justice and accountability. In a statement on Sunday, Atiku said the presidential prerogative of mercy should serve as a balance between justice and compassion and not be used carelessly. He argued that the latest round of pardons has reduced the process to what he called a mere triviality, stripping it of its intended moral and legal weight. Atiku Abubakar also expressed concern that young Nigerians are losing hope in the country and lamenting over hardship, fraudulent elections, and bad governance. The former vice president, however, told the youths that the change they desire cannot be attained by voter apathy, noting that 25% to 30% voter turnout in every election cycle is not encouraging. Similarly, the African Democratic Congress ADC has criticized President Bola Tinubu over the recent presidential pardon granted to convicted drug traffickers and smugglers, calling the move a national disgrace and an abuse of power. In a statement, ADC National Publicity Secretary Bolaji Abdullahi described the decision as a deeply irresponsible use of presidential clemency. The party said the action sends a dangerous message that even the most serious crimes, including drug trafficking and gun running, can be forgiven simply by showing remorse or learning a skill in prison. The ADC further warned that such pardons undermine the work of security agencies, particularly the NDLEA, whose officers have risked their lives to combat drug-related crimes. According to the party, the decision not only weakens Nigeria's stance on narcotics, but also risks damaging the country's global image, portraying it as soft on crime and unsafe for international cooperation in the war against drugs. The presidency has once again dismissed allegations of a Christian genocide in Nigeria as false and politically motivated. Presidential spokesman Daniel Bwala, in a post on X on Monday, said the genocide allegation was based on misinformation and a flawed report by an individual in Onitsha, which he claimed was being weaponized by foreign lobby groups and sections of the Western media. According to him, the claim was part of a coordinated campaign by foreign interests to discredit the country. Bwala said the narrative was part of an orchestrated agenda fueled by bias, adding that Nigerians are superlatively safer today under President Tinubu than before 2023, when we had daylight kidnappings and rampant killings. He maintained that Nigeria rejects what he called divisive propaganda aimed at sowing religious tension in the country. This follows recent comments by U.S. Senators Ted Cruz and Ted Budd, who alleged widespread persecution of Christians in Nigeria. The claims came days after President Bola Tinubu publicly reiterated Nigeria's support for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict during the United Nations General Assembly, a position that has drawn both praise and criticism internationally. Farmers in Shanawa, Jangeru, and Galadi communities of Shinkafi local government area, Zamfara State, are lamenting after bandits allegedly demanded 20 million naira from them before they could access their farms this harvest season. The demand, according to the residents, has sparked outrage among farming communities across the state, who accused the armed gangs of turning agriculture into a ransom business. A resident who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the bandits' demands come every farming season. According to him, the latest threat came with a chilling message from the bandits. Another resident said those who attempt to enter their farms secretly, especially at night, are often abducted or killed. The residents are now appealing to the Zamfara state government and security agencies to urgently intervene as attacks persist despite ongoing military operations in the area. According to information obtained by security analysts Bakastin, the affected communities have suffered several attacks in recent months, with bandits tightening control over farmlands. The presidency says there is no plan to replace the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu. In a statement on Sunday, the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, dismissed rumors that the minister suffered a stroke or had been flown abroad for treatment, stressing he was recuperating in his Abuja home after falling ill. The clarification follows speculation that President Tinubu was considering replacing the minister after reports of his ill health emerged late last week. The presidency had earlier disclosed that the governor of the central bank, Olayemi Cardoso, will lead Nigeria's delegation to the World Bank and International Monetary Fund annual meeting in Washington, D.C., which opens on Monday. The Nigerian team will also comprise the Minister of State for Finance, Doris Uzoka Nete. According to the World Bank, key elements of the annual meetings include the Development Committee plenary session on October 16th and the International Monetary and Financial Committee meetings on October 17th. Special Counsel to Leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, Aloy Ejimako, has called on Nigerians to oppose Kanu's continued detention, saying it violates both domestic and international law. In a statement issued ahead of a planned protest, Ejimako urged citizens to join the peaceful demonstration scheduled for October 20th at the presidential villa in Abuja. He argued that Kanu's ongoing prosecution is unlawful, given his controversial return to Nigeria through what he described as extraordinary rendition. Ejimako maintained that no one who believes in the rule of law should support Kanu's trial under such circumstances, and called on the government to respect due process and human rights. Posters line streets of Sharm el-Sheikh ahead of Gaza Peace Summit. Please use water cannons during Chile's Day of the Encounter of Two Worlds. Do stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
U.S. President Donald Trump defended his China strategy, saying tariffs have made the U.S. a wealthy country again and given Washington negotiating strength, while talking to journalists aboard the Air Force One en route to Israel on Sunday. Trade Representative Jamison Greer said on Sunday that the U.S. reached out to China for a phone call following an announcement that it was expanding its rare earths export controls, but Beijing deferred, while China accused the U.S. of what it called double standards. Trump responded on Friday to China's expansion by imposing 100% tariffs on China's U.S.-bound exports, along with new export controls on any and all critical software by November 1st. U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods have exacerbated price wars in sectors as varied as food and beverages, e-commerce, and autos, intensifying deflationary pressure. China and the U.S. have been embroiled in a trade war since Trump returned to the White House earlier this year. Global financial markets tumbled as Trump floated the possibility of cancelling an upcoming meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Greer said he believes that markets will calm in the coming weeks as things settle. He said a Trump-Xi meeting on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum in South Korea could still happen later this month. The war in Gaza has ended, and the Middle East is going to normalize, US President Donald Trump said on Sunday as he flew to Israel, which was waiting for Hamas to release Israeli hostages, as world leaders were gathering to discuss the next steps towards peace.
I think people are, a lot of reasons why it's going to hold, but I think people are tired of it. It's been centuries, okay? Not just recent, it's been centuries. I think people are tired of it. Yeah, the ceasefire is going to hold, and we'll be a good, strong force.
When will that go?
I don't think it's going to have a big impact because I think barely we're going to have to use it. I think people are going to behave. Everybody knows their place. It's going to be great for everybody. It's going to be great for the surrounding countries, Arab, Muslim, all of them. It's going to be great for Israel. Everybody is happy. And I think it's going to stay that way. Peter?
Israeli prison services and forces around the prison prepared for the release of Palestinian prisoners at the early hours of Monday morning in southern Israel at Ketziot and Ofer in the West Bank. The United States, along with Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, mediated what has been described as a first-phase agreement between Israel and Hamas for a ceasefire and the release of hostages by Hamas and prisoners and detainees by Israel. Hostages coordinator Gal Hirsch on Thursday said a task force would be formed to help find the remains of any dead hostages that Hamas could not locate. 20 of the 48 hostages are known to be alive. The hostage release began at 8 a.m. from the Netzarim corridor and continued at 10 a.m. in Gaza's Khan Yunis, Israeli media reported on Monday. Thousands of people cheered, hugged and wept in Tel Aviv's Hostages Square as they watched convoys carrying Israeli hostages held captive in Gaza make their way back to home soil. Hamas handed over the first 7 of 20 surviving Israeli hostages as expected, a key step in ending 2 years of ruinous war in Gaza under a ceasefire deal engineered by US President Donald Trump, who landed in Israel to address its parliament. The military said the Red Cross was en route to receive more of the remaining 13 confirmed living hostages, who were all expected to be released on Monday. Bodies of some of the 28 dead hostages and another 2 whose fate is unknown will also be released on Monday, along with nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees and convicted prisoners held in Israel. Posters of US President Donald Trump and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi lined the streets of Egypt's Red Sea resort, city of Sharm el-Sheikh on Monday, as security tightened ahead of the Gaza Peace Summit. The meeting, aimed at ending the war in Gaza, comes as more than 20 world leaders are expected to gather in Sharm el-Sheikh to sign a US-brokered peace deal. Progress toward a lasting peace now depends on commitments expected to be discussed later on Monday by world leaders led by Trump in Sharm el-Sheikh. The new Peruvian president, Jose Jerry, confronted his first protest on Sunday by engaging in dialogue with Aldo Marinos, a local mayor who had marched for days to the capital, Lima, to demand more attention for his region. Marinos, the mayor of Pataz, a small town about 880 kilometers north of Lima, started a march to the capital on August 25th to protest the lack of investment in the La Libertad region. Upon reaching Lima, Marinos was welcomed by Jerry at the government palace, while a crowd of supporters and protesters, including Gen Z members, demonstrated against the new administration.
The reason for his, Marinos, fight is to secure for Pataz, where he's the mayor, schools, medical centers, paved roads. It doesn't have a hospital, so when somebody falls sick, they have to travel several kilometers. This is a nationwide problem. He commands the admiration of all the forgotten provinces. I don't consider him, Jose Jerry, the president. There are some people who even think he's worse than the assassin Dina Boluart, as he's a violin, edition, S-note, slang implying sexual abuse. He actually is a violin, as he has some charges and the prosecutor's office has archived them. I think we will be worse than with Dina.
Of Jerry late on Thursday, after the sudden impeachment of his predecessor, had caused further discontent in a country tense with rising crime and accusations of corruption. Local media outlets, citing sources with direct knowledge of the matter, have accused him of asking companies for payments in exchange for favors. Jerry denies the allegations and has expressed his willingness to cooperate with any investigation. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro led a rally for the Day of Indigenous Resistance in Caracas on Sunday, his first public appearance after opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize this week. Maduro blended the Columbus Day narrative with present-day tensions over a U.S. military buildup in the southern Caribbean, which the Trump administration says destroyed 4 drug trafficking boats without providing further evidence. The president did not address the Nobel Peace Prize awarded on Friday to his opponent, Maria Corina Machado, but he alluded to her indirectly by invoking La Sayona, a female figure from Venezuelan folklore.
A tiny minority, but full of hatred, is calling for an invasion of Venezuela. Many living in Miami are asking that our country be bombed and invaded. Do they think our country can be colonized again? Do they think our people are afraid of them? Do they think our people will surrender? Never. Nobody surrenders here, damn it. We're moving forward with the strength of the invisible, rebellious Indian. All the polls are there. 90% of our people reject any threat of invasion or war against Venezuela. All the polls say so. Between 80% and 85% of our people are ready to fight for their homeland, for their land, Venezuela. And 90% of the entire population repudiates the demonic witch La Sayona, Maria Corina Machado. We want peace, and we will have peace, but peace with freedom, with sovereignty, with independence, with dignity and equality. Not the peace of empires, the peace of Gaza's ruins, not the peace of misery and hunger, not the peace of death and blood, no, not the peace of domination, not the peace of colonies, no.
The 58-year-old industrial engineer Machado has re-energized a politically disengaged population after more than a decade of economic and social collapse. Machado has been in hiding in Venezuela since 2024, when electoral authorities allied with President Nicolás Maduro declared Maduro's re-election in a vote widely seen as rigged. Hundreds of residents of Portland, Oregon on Sunday took to their bikes in the Buff to protest U.S. President Donald Trump's continuous threat to send the National Guard to the city. The protesters, some of whom were either stark naked or in colorful costume, braved heavy rain in cold weather to bike several miles to the local Immigration and Customs Enforcement office, where they've been protesting Trump's mass deportation policies for the past few weeks. Dozens of police officers could be seen stationed outside the facility on Sunday afternoon in anticipation of the naked bicyclists' arrival. For Portland resident Sue Cass, this was her first naked bike ride, a form of protest that has been held previously in Portland and other cities across the U.S.
I'm here. I've never done the naked bike ride, but I'm here because I feel like if I'm ever going to do it, this would be the reason to do it. And because I think it is a cheerful, joyful way of protest.
Yeah, this is a very small sacrifice compared to like immigrants are dealing with right now. Yeah.
Although protests in Portland have largely been confined to the city's ICE facility, Trump has described the city as a full-blown war zone, threatening to send National Guard soldiers to restore order. A federal judge in Oregon recently blocked Trump's attempt to deploy troops, though another appellate court appeared poised to overrule that decision during arguments earlier this week. Clashes broke out on Sunday in Chile as protesters marking the day of the encounter of two worlds confronted police. Police trucks used water cannons and tear gas to clear protesters who marched through downtown Santiago, the capital. Protesters waved signs and flags demanding justice for the missing Mapuche environmental activist Julia Chunil, who went missing on November 8, 2024, in her home region of the Los Rios region. Relatives of the 73-year-old have said she was killed for defending a native forest, Chilean media reported.
We are stranded here because of the war. People say there is fighting at the border. Children, women, and the elderly here with us are sick. There is no water or food. We don't have enough money to survive here for even a few days. They should resolve their issues through dialogue. In war, both countries lose. No one benefits.
We arrived here in the morning, and the bombing started. What kind of Islam is this? We're trapped with no money, no way to leave. Is this what they call Muslim Brotherhood? They pick up bombs while we're just trying to survive. It would be better to kill us. They call themselves Muslims.
The day of the encounter of two worlds has been since 2000, the Chilean name for the former Day of the Race holiday, and marks the arrival of Christopher Columbus in the Americas in 1492, according to Chilean media. And that's the news this hour. I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. Thanks for watching.